Hi, Stacie.
Hi, Holly.
Thanks for coming on today.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everybody. This is Holly Lotus from Shameless Explorations, and today we have Stacie Ysidro.
Yes.
Did I say it right? Okay, good.
Ysidro.
Ysidro with us, and she's going to share a little bit about sober sex and what that means, and what she's doing in the world with that. Let's just say hello, and I'm so excited that you're here. I'm actually really excited to hear more about what you're doing because I have my own journey with this that I had to overcome. I was once really crazy, socially awkward, so I would only relate when I was drinking. And I started drinking at a really early age to numb myself. So, like, I know there's so many reasons why people um, aren't sober when they're relating or when they're having sex. So I'm just excited to hear what you're doing with all of that. Um, so will you just introduce yourself a little bit? Can you share your
Sure,
background?
absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that about yourself because I found that any type of substance abuse or overuse, or if you want to use the word addiction, it carries a lot of shame and judgment and stigma. So a lot of times people don't even openly admit that they have had struggles or challenges with this throughout their lifetime. And some people never have challenges with it at all, and they just don't understand that. So there's a lot to be revealed around the topic of substance abuse, use, and addiction in general. Um, myself is, speaking to that, um, I had definitely started using different drugs when I was younger and had challenges not using them throughout my life, and got to a point where I really felt like I was in a spiritual death, if you will, and knew that something had to change and be different. And so I had entered into recovery and decided that my life is way better when I am not using any form of drugs or alcohol to alter my state of consciousness. So, that in and of itself is a journey, and it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to open up about that stuff. So I just want to give people permission to, listen with an open mind and an open heart, and just notice if there is any judgments coming up around the subject or this topic. And in the other hand too, you could still get something out of this conversation, even if you have not had any challenges with substances. So I started coaching when I was in my salon and working behind the chair and managing and owning salons. And through that process, I discovered that I had a special niche around spirituality and sexuality. So I decided to take the leap of faith and dive into that fully, and left my salons and went off on my own journey of sexual exploration and education, and got a certification in actual sex coaching, and also the Erotic Blueprint certification, which is how we met. And so I've been working with sexuality and spirituality for over 10 years now. And just this past year, I was in a place where I was like, I kind of feel like I want to switch the group of people that I'm serving, because I started seeing such a need in the recovery communities for sexual self-acceptance and to understand sexuality without the use of drugs or alcohol, and how can we recover our sex lives, not only just these other areas of our lives. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I have a lot of compassion for what people are experiencing. So that's kind of the short story of how this topic manifested.
Yeah, so can I ask intimate questions?
Yes.
Well, you can ask me too. I'm like an open book. What was your turning point? from like, what kind of events happen in your client's life or your life that has you exploring like, maybe this isn't working for me?
So I got to a point in my late 20s when I was seeing a therapist, and I was, explaining everything that was going on in my life. And she said, have you ever considered that maybe the substance use is really causing all of these problems, that it's not other people? And I was like, oh, of course not. That's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life. That's stupid. No, a complete denial. And then it started like kind of manifesting and showing itself to me. Holy smokes. Like a lot of my issues stem from this, And so that was the first time that I decided to seek recovery. And I actually did stop using for over 2 years. And then I got to this place where I was like, you know what? I'm better now. I'm fine. There's nothing really wrong with me. I could drink because I never really cared about that. Or I can smoke weed because that wasn't even an issue, even though I habitually smoked every single day. Like I still didn't see that as a problem. And I thought that I could manage my substance use. And then sooner than later, things progressed very quickly. And it was a lot worse than it was the first time. And I was finding myself in situations that before I had said, oh, I'm never going to do that. Or I don't have a problem because I didn't do X, Y, Z. And then I reached that place of like spiritual death again. And it's like this place for me of like, I don't care if I live or die. Like there is nothing I don't care, whatever. So it's like this slow dance with death, like kind of daring it, like go for it, And then for me personally, I have kids, who are older now, but I didn't want them to find me dead, right? I've had friends and family members that have passed away because of substance use and abuse. And it's really painful to experience that. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so it was definitely a process of seeking help again. It was like getting honest with my therapist and being like, hey, guess what? This shit is happening. And it's way worse than before. And something needs to happen. And so then that led me, back to recovery. And, now it's been over 3 years and I'm in a much different place. Like I worked my program differently than I did before. And I think that as bad as that time seemed of that relapse, if you will, it really taught me that that this is not something that I can do recreationally. And I don't make good decisions when I put any substance in my body. So it was really important to me to get my life back. And through that, the sexuality piece, helping people with sexuality, and then now being in like a community of recovery and seeing how sexuality can often either trigger relapses, relationships. A lot of us, have had different traumas around sexuality that can make us feel broken or less than or not a part of, that can ultimately lead back to substance use. Or it could even just be something that, like you were saying, like, I'm socially awkward, I have anxiety, and I need to loosen up. And then you find that all of a sudden you can't step into a sexual space without a substance because you can't fully be present. You can't fully be in your body. So for me, that was my own journey, but in my clients' lives too, I've seen that. And I've also seen that, hey, I just realized that I only have sex when I'm drunk. And then I get myself into these weird situations, or I get into relationships that I wouldn't be in. And now, like, I don't remember what I did, or that wasn't fun. Like, I didn't really consent. So they're,
why am I even doing this? Who is
yeah,
this
why am I
person in
doing
front of
this?
me? It's like,
Right. So yeah, it could be a lot of different things.
mhm.
But ultimately, the point is that I really want to step into sexuality consciously and be fully present. And I want to love myself and I want to accept myself and allow myself to authentically like give and receive in a sexual space.
Mm.
And I don't want to have to use substances to loosen up or get out of myself.
Yeah, I'll say that I noticed when I decided to stop. I mean, um, so for me, it was like relating because the people I was meeting, this was just like the social thing that they did. And I wasn't actually an addict. My sexual partner for the last 4 years is like, I think he's now 17 years clean and sober. So he is explained to me that I wasn't actually an alcoholic. I just was a heavy drinker with a drinking problem. So, and I didn't understand that. I just was like, my dad was an alcoholic. I must be doing that right now. And just, I drank a lot. And then, I had this wake up call one day when I was dating somebody, and one of my friends said, um, he reminds me of Jerry. And Jerry was my abusive stepdad. And I was like, wait a minute. My daughter was 4 at that time. And I just like couldn't believe that I was doing this. Like he wasn't being with her like Jerry was with us when we were kids, but just that was like, wait a minute, I drink with this guy, he's angry, like he has these attributes, and like, what am I doing here? So that was my wake up call, and I was just able to decide to um stop with whatever it was that we were experimenting with. At that time it was just drinking, but so I was just able to stop. But like when I did, and then I went on to this journey of like discovering myself and how to relate to others, it was really like things that came up for me is that I realized that um I had a lot of traumas in my past that I was just numbing from, and didn't want to deal with. So then like relating with people was really hard, and so that was my why of like just numbing out. And it started really early. I didn't even realize that was um like a coping mechanism. So once I woke up and realized that there was this whole other aspect to relating with people, and then sex is totally different when there's like full presence and there's no alcohol or drugs inhibiting like the connection that you can have. It was at first scary and like, whoa. But then like you realize that things shift, right? And there's so much more connection available. So can you talk a little bit about that, like the difference between like relating
Sure.
on substances and really just connecting as our authentic selves?
Yeah. And first, I just want to say that, yeah, as far as what we want to label ourselves as, I don't really even think that that's the point.
Mhm.
Like, I think that we get caught up in, oh, alcoholics, addicts, heavy drinkers, or, like these umbrella labels stir up so much within us. And so I'm at a point now where I'm like, you know what? I don't even have to identify with any of these labels, but I can address what's going on with me.
Mhm.
And so for me, I really identify with what you're saying about that sense of disconnection. It was a lot easier just to go through the motions and have sex with someone because there wasn't any connection. There wasn't a level of intimacy there. And there was like a numbing of my body, and there were walls up from different experiences that I wasn't allowing myself to connect intimately on a deeper level with people. And then without using substances, you're right. It's like, holy smokes, like I kind of feel like a virgin all over again. And this is scary because I've never really experienced my feelings before, and I don't even know what I'm feeling. And there's a whole process I found of, allowing ourselves to feel and not just emotionally, but also within our bodies. Like there's a discovery process of learning, like, how do I like to be touched?
Yeah.
What does actually turn me on? How do I feel about, my partner giving me directions? Am I taking that as a criticism, or am I open to, to giving and taking that feedback without judgments, and realizing that it's not about me, it's about what their needs are. So how do I speak my needs? And even before getting to that point, what I realized is I don't even know what my sexual values are. I've never really even heard anyone talk about this before. Like I've heard people talk about having better sex and communication and feelings and all this stuff, but I really started thinking about, well, if we have value systems in general in our lives, like, okay, you don't steal, or being a good person means this, or these are my boundaries and expectations, at a job or with a family member. Like, what are my boundaries and expectations with sexuality? What do I define as sex? What does sex mean? What is it for? So it was kind of uncovering all these attitudes and ideas and beliefs around sexuality in general first. So then I realized, like, okay, this is what consent means to me. Sex is okay with these people. I don't want to engage in a sexual relationship if these things are going on. So I really had to start to decide, like, all of those things that we never really even think of before we dive into an actual experience. Like, before using substances, there was no thought process about it. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, well, let's go have sex. There wasn't a level of connection and intimacy and friendship. And then now, getting clean, I'm like, you know what? I want to know this person on a deeper level. And I want to know that I'm going to be cared for and they're not trying to hurt me. And I want them to know that I'm authentically being present with them and getting vulnerable. And I want them to be able to do the same thing. So it really opens up this whole other aspect of sexuality for love and connection and pleasure and intimacy, versus manipulation or control or power or just going through the motions.
Yeah, and actual like mutual caring instead of just like, I gotta get something right now. Like, what am
Yeah,
I doing?
and mutual desire is a big thing too that has come up when I discuss sexual values with people. Like, when is sex okay? And a lot of people say, I want there to be mutual desire. But how often have we had sex with someone when we didn't really feel like it?
Yeah.
Like, I know that I've had sex with people because it was way easier just to have sex with them than it was for me to have a difficult conversation about why I didn't feel like that with them,
Right. And just do it out
So,
of obligation almost.
right.
Like,
And
okay,
just,
well, I turned you on.
yeah, and get it over with and be done and move on. So, yeah, it opens up this whole other, experience when there's an authentic mutual desire between people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so real. So thank you. Thank you for all of that. Can you talk a little bit more about values, like how to discover, like
Yes.
how somebody could start to discover their values?
Yes, I am doing like a whole entire program on this because it is such a deep subject. Um, so sexual values actually come from all different places. They come from um, our religious ideas and beliefs, our spiritual beliefs. They come from our family, from our culture and society. It could even come from a socioeconomic standpoint, or race or gender identity or preference. And from your sex, it's women are, men are, XYZ. So, and it also comes from your own experience. And these things sometimes are very consciously told to us, but a lot of times they're really unconsciously programmed into us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they come from.
Great. So if you're having, like, if someone's having a struggle and they're like, well, I don't even understand how to start discovering. I don't have any sexual values. I just do it because I'm obligated. Like, I turned this guy on, or I'm married to this person. I have to. How do they start that conversation?
Yeah, it's by going through each one of these topics is what I do with people is I start out with um, what I learned about sex from culture and society. And then journaling all that out, just getting out all of those messages that were told to me. Women are to please men. Women aren't supposed to like sex. Only bad girls do it. If you do like it, then you're a slut. It's not good to be a slut. You can only have sex if you're married. You know, women and men are the only ones who can get married. So just kind of listing out what I learned about sex from culture was. And then you have this whole list of things, right? And the more you keep going, the deeper and deeper and deeper it goes, right?
Yeah.
So taking those and looking at them and really feeling into them, which one has the biggest charge for me right now? And then saying, oh man, you know, I'm really caught up in this idea of I'm supposed to please my husband and women are only here for men to have sex with. Like this, the obligatory thing, this has like the biggest charge to me. And then we go through a process of removing that charge so that we can start to write a new narrative about that. So that's kind of the process that I go through with people on each one of those subjects.
Beautiful. So how do you work with people? Is it like a one-on-one thing, or do you?
Yeah, I've been working one-on-one with people mostly. It would be nice to do a group, but a lot of people feel like there's so much like shame and guilt around this stuff, and it's a really private subject that they prefer to work one-on-one. So I do Zoom sessions with people online, and then I also have an in-person immersion that I add into their packages where we get to be in person and go through things on a deeper level and more somatically.
Beautiful. Cool. I love the one-on-one work. It goes so deep. I love to work one-on-one with my clients. It's like such a gift in your life to just be seen. So, well, first I just want to say thank you for this conversation. Like, I love talking about this kind of stuff that, like, it's so taboo, or these things that we just hide because it's so scary to admit that, like, we've been there, we've had this experience, or we struggled here. So thank you for the work that you're doing. It's amazing. And I'm just so excited about the people that you're going to support. And I just want to ask, how do people find you? Like, if they feel like they want to, like, ask questions, or
Yeah, ask questions. So I have a Facebook group that is it's called Sober Intimacy. So it's private, and I can share, you know, the link and page, and you can join that group. And I post about different topics related to sex and sexuality and relationships without the use of substances. So that's one resource that I have available. I also have a website, and it's called holisticprogressions.com. And then my email is holisticprogressions@gmail.com. And I
perfect.
even did a YouTube channel that I post on, not super regularly, but there's definitely some videos up there to go through. And I kind of post as things come up, and I use that just as a way for people to get to know me and to start discovering, you know, some of these topics and exploring them themselves, so that when they're ready to actually start working with someone, that they have some material there and something to dive into.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I forgot one question I wanted to ask. Like,
Yes.
what is the biggest gift in, like, the shift? So once people realize that they can have that connection, like, what is the biggest thing that they, like, their biggest takeaway?
Ooh, this is like exponential, right? Um, because yeah, diving into our own sexual exploration, it's the deepest way to experience personal growth and transformation that flows out into the rest of our lives. And what I have seen happen with people is they have released guilt and shame around their sexuality, like sexual desires, around things that have happened in the past. They've been able to remove the charge around what has been done. They've learned to forgive themselves and forgive other people. And they have learned to experience pleasure in new ways and experience a really deep level of intimacy and connection with someone, and open themselves up to allow themselves to receive and release the fear around trust, learning to trust themselves, that they're going to have discernment and make the best decisions that are for them. And in turn, I've seen people find partners and get to redefine their relationships, create the relationship that they have truly wanted and desired, like maybe forever, or for where they're at now. Maybe they have had a certain style of relationship in the past, and now they're in a different place. And so they're like, guess what? This is what my relationship needs are, and I'm going to create that and find someone that's in alignment with that. So yeah, besides epic sex, all this stuff flows out into, now I have better relationships, not only with a partner, but with my family and with my friends. And I have more confidence in other areas of my life because I'm solid in myself about really who I am. So just this sense of freedom and full self-expression.
Thank you. Yeah. The direct experience I have like,
yeah.
I think that all of us who are like exploring in this area have had this direct experience. Like, once I get past these things, this numbing of my emotions or inability to communicate, like, then my body starts to turn on, and there's just like everything's available. So
yeah, and we get to experience different aspects of ourselves. So like for me, before, I was always, super in charge, super in control, and very dominant. And I realized that there's a part of me that really wants to receive and just let go. And I've actually been able to find a partner that I feel safe to experience that with. So now, like, my latest, greatest frontier and sexuality isn't about going and doing all of these things. It's like, ooh, what am I open to surrendering to? What is this about? So now I get to start to cultivate this whole new part of me. So it's like I get to know this part of myself, from scratch, and experience other parts of myself all over again in a new way. So it's like, yeah, unleashing your inner sexual goddess, or, different personalities that we have, and just accept that they're all parts of us, that none of this stuff defines us, but we have the capacity to experience all of these things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just invite anyone who is curious or who can identify with anything that we've talked about to reach out. Go to my website. You can send me a client application, or join the Facebook group, or send me an email. And I'm happy to answer any questions or give resources and referrals if it's something that, I'm not familiar with or am not in the space to address. So yeah, if you feel called and something within you is stirring because of this, then it's a sign to kind of, to reach out. And if you experience some fear and resistance about reaching out, then that means that you need to reach out. Yeah. Yeah, there is a pathway to freedom there.
Yeah, lean into that discomfort and just be like, whoa. And then you'll be wow.
One of our fellow coaches just said, make fear your lover.
Yes. Yes, thank you. So actually, Stacie and I just came out of 5 days of our Erotic Blueprint leadership training. So actually, thank you for coming on, because I know that I'm exhausted from that.
Oh my God. I know, me too. I had to sleep in. I woke up early, but I went back to sleep.
Yeah, I'm usually
Yeah.
up at 5 or 6 a.m. and I got to sleep in until like 9:30. So that was a big deal for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, we're gonna get some of this, inspiration and motivation out,
Yeah.
and yeah, otherwise the rest of this weekend and time is gonna be some decompressing, relaxing space. But yeah, like after that, don't you just feel like inspired and
Yeah.
from just the whole experience?
Yeah, I'm so glad we came on because it's like it's just so alive right now after
Hmm.
being in that. So thank you. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for you coming on and sharing, and for the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing and such a great contribution.
Yeah, thank you. I'm grateful to you for having me on and just having this opportunity to share and talk more.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to end the recording. Bye,
Sure.
everybody. Thanks for
See
joining
ya.
us. That is not what I meant to do.